Hey everyone, and welcome to Read This Now, the weekly webcast where Brad Gustafson and I share two books that we love and we think you should read when, Brad?
Right now, people.
Do it now. Do not wait. I love it. I don't know why I point down
I
as
was
though
thinking you just made me do it. I mirrored you. I'm like, I don't know what's down here, but maybe
I
it's
don't
a
know.
sign.
Now
The
it's
sign
like
says
this
right
moment.
now.
Yes, not later, not
Right.
before, but now. That's
Right
exactly
now.
it. I love it. I love it. Howie, my friend, what you been reading?
So good. So many books. And now, thanks to you, my life is enriched with audiobooks as well, too. I'm going to talk about a physical book, though. Recently read, this is by Francisco X. Stork. Okay.
Oh, I know what you mean. Keep going.
Okay. And I'm a teeny bit behind the times, you just can't read it all. So this came out a couple years ago, but it's called Illegal. And it was so powerful, and just one of those books where it has that gravitational pull. You just need to be reading it. You find excuses to read instead of the opposite. So teeny bit of the story, why it was so compelling. So Sarah and her brother Emiliano are in Mexico, and they get kind of caught up in this cartel, and Emiliano crosses illegally to try to save his life. His sister goes through seeks asylum, through all the proper channels, I guess, and gets housed in a detention center. I don't know what it's called, a waiting center. But as the story unfolds, it feels a lot like jail, and kind of gets hopeless, and she isn't treated very well in that. Well, anyway, as the options and the story pan out, these kids have nowhere to go because they will be killed. I mean, it's very clear, and this happens in the beginning of the book. They have one of the cartel people's cell phones. There was a close run-in, and they escaped, and they decided to take the cell phone to try to save lots of people's lives because people are being abused and trafficked, and they're like,
sure,
so now they have this thing that the cartel really wants, and they know in Mexico they're dead. They also know the reach of the cartel, as they start to learn, is in the United States too, even in this detention center where Sarah is.
Yeah.
So it's just like an untenable situation. And so Emiliano, they just go, they have all these awesome, they meet all these people and have connections, kind of loose family. And of one connection of note is their father. Their parents were separated when they were younger. Their father is now living in the Chicago area and working for an air conditioning vendor. And he travels all the way down to help and to pick up Emiliano. And he's kind of a salesman type. So he's giving his business card away and trying to make sales. Well, he doesn't know. They're not super forward. Like, hey, Dad, can we come live with you and your new family? Oh, and by the way, people are trying to kill us. That's not how they approach their dad.
Right.
Dad didn't know he shouldn't be throwing his business card around like confetti. Anyway, it's just like this very real, which I think is why it's so powerful and just heavy, but also very engaging. And you just follow their adventure, and they're separated, obviously. And I think you should read it right now, not just because it's a really good book, but I learned a lot and helped me develop a different perspective. I think probably I always thought, I don't know what the word is. You look at something just through one lens, and the lens was kind of like, we have a system for how people can come in the United States, and it's a really good system. I'm maybe exaggerating a little bit, but this shows a perspective of how hard that system was to navigate for Sarah, and why it mattered for her to be treated well and at least fairly, and I don't know. So that's kind of it. But I loved it just because it's just a powerful read. And I really think you should read this right now.
I love that cover of that.
Yeah.
I'm such a fan of Francisco X. Stork. I mean, he's one of these writers. He's written so many books that give voice to stories that I think are undertold. And I'm not just talking about, say, the immigrant experience or particularly Mexican Americans, etc., But the combination of those two stories, and sometimes in the kind of detail that I don't see oftentimes there's an experience around a detention center, or a juvenile incarceration, or some of these other stories that I just don't see that often in books. He's written so many books, and I don't want to misspeak here, but I think maybe one of our 3.5 viewers will correct me, but I think he may have been a teacher or worked in some of those places before that's really informed his writing. Like, he writes for and about kids that he knows, and so I think that makes his book super powerful. And every year it seems like he comes out with a new one. He's really prolific, so I'm glad more people are reading his book.
Yeah, and you'll be happy to know I did not hit some of the highlight aha moments from the story, and just like there's way more, and really just some cool, powerful, surprising elements. I steered clear of those because I wanted anyone who checks it out to have that experience. So I just gave you kind of the overlaying picture.
I love it. Thank you. I noticed you held up an arc. Is that one out yet, or is that coming soon?
Yeah. This is from 2020.
Okay.
Like, came out August 4th. I just didn't. You know how it is.
Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you mean. You get to them when you can get to them, right? Exactly. Okay. So it's kind of, our books overlap a little bit, I think, this time around, both because they include some representation that I think sometimes isn't told all that often. And also, you mentioned learning a lot from the book that you read, and I really learned a lot from the book that I read too. I'm sure, we're all still working our way through the list of books that won awards back in January when the Newbery and the Caldecott and all the other ALA awards were announced. I both love and hate when those awards go to books that I don't know. I love it because I'm always like, oh my gosh, I don't know that book. I'm so excited. But then also I just think, oh, how did I miss it? Like, it's that mix of emotions. And this year, the Newbery was given to a book that I had never even heard of before, which like I said, was both exciting and also like, how did that happen? So like everybody else, I quickly placed an order, but had to wait for it to show up, because once a book is given the Newbery, it's hard to find. And so I've been working my way through this year's winner, Freewater, by Amina Luqman-Dawson. And I just want to show this like gorgeous cover here real fast. And ever since I've finished reading it, I've been thinking about it a lot. It's one of those books that's sort of stuck with me. The characters and the world has stuck with me. And I think the thing that has stuck with me the most is the fact that my phone is ringing, is the fact that I didn't know a lot of the history that's in this book. So let me tell you quickly what it's about. It opens up with a brother and sister, Homer and Ada. Homer, I believe, is around 11 or 12. Ada is a few years younger, and they are on the run. The two of them are trying to escape enslavement at this huge plantation where they were born, where their families live. Unfortunately, in the attempt to escape, they've been separated from their mother, that we will learn very quickly their mother has been taken back to the plantation. But Homer and Ada end up lost in the swamp that surrounds this plantation in Louisiana. And in their peril, in their attempt to escape and survive in this new, like, inhospitable environment, they find more people who have escaped enslavement and who have created their own community deep in the swamps where most people can't travel to or survive. And it's in this found family of Freewater, deep in the swamps, that Homer and Ada, not only do they find a family, but they also kind of find themselves, because you have to remember, these are people who've been enslaved their entire lives. Homer in particular has worked his whole life to be invisible so that he would never be noticed by the people who have enslaved him and his family and the countless others back on the plantation. And so in Freewater, these two kids have to learn what it means to be free. And what Homer realizes is that not only does he have a voice and is it okay to use it, but that for him, there really is no freedom without his mother. And so for him, the story is about how he can figure out a way to get back and to free his mother. So even though he has this newfound family, it's not the same as his mom and the family back there. And so the book becomes kind of this adventure about how are Homer and his sister and their new friends and family in Freewater going to work to try to save the people that they left behind. What is so interesting to me about this book is that I did not know, and apparently neither did the author until she did some research, that this reality of enslaved people escaping and forming their own communities in the massive swamp areas of the South is true. That archaeologists are finding evidence of these slave communities who built families, freed people who've escaped, these escaped enslaved people who've built communities, had children, and lived in mostly, if not safe, at least free communities on their own in these inhospitable areas. It's really fascinating. So I could see why the Newbery Committee selected it, because I've never heard a story like this. The characters like Ada and Homer and all of the friends and family that they meet along the way are very, very compelling. It's beautifully told. And so if you haven't had the chance to read it yet, my copy doesn't have the big gold sticker for the Newbery on it yet, but I recommend that you pick it up. It's called Freewater, and again, it's by Amina Luqman-Dawson, and I think you should read it right now.
Amazing, Jen. Thanks for sharing that one.
Really an interesting and profound book.
Wow. Wow. I'm just kind of picturing, based on your description and the cover a little bit, what the new communities that the
yes,
newly free enslaved people
built. I mean, it's important, like for me anyway, I've been like thinking about how even though these people have found a way to be free, they're still trapped in a way, because if they venture outside of Freewater or the safety of the swamps, then they're wanted, they're criminals. And not only would they be enslaved again, but chances are they'd be killed. So they're free, but also still in great peril and danger. And that is sort of like an interesting, I really commend the writer for being able to capture that, the dichotomy of being free and knowing what that is for the first time in your life, and how joyful and also profound that is, while also recognizing that one toe away from this bubble that you've created is utter peril. It's like it's an interesting and moving environment for this book to take place in. So, and the characters are so well-rounded and interesting and unique. I really enjoyed getting to know them throughout the book, and I'm just excited to see other people as they read it what their thoughts are, because I don't know anybody who's read it yet. So it's really like sort of a surprise pick by the Newbery Committee. I'm delighted that they chose it. It's put it on my radar, and I hope it'll put it on a lot of other people's radar too.
Wonderful, wonderful. If you're looking for other books to put on your radar, Jen and I think you might like to go to a beautiful spreadsheet, and it's online at bit.ly/read_this_now. And there's a good long list of books that Jen and I have read and talked about, and many of which Jen reads and recommends, and I catch up over the months.
Vice versa. We recommend to each other, and I love that. That's what this show is all about. Just two friends reading.
It sure is. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Happy reading.